welcome to yet another episode of Mad About Markets. And this one, I think Mangalam is most excited about.
Yeah, but what's with your voice, Ritu?
I mean, I'm just under the weather, but what's with your face and what are those glasses?
It's my look, Ritu. We're planning to, work on our appearances. At least I am.
You think that is working?
I'm not too sure.
We will hear from our audiences later.
But what's working is the attention that men are increasingly giving to their skin and hair.
Yes.
Notwithstanding me, but a bunch of them. And that's exactly...
They're trying. And self-care is becoming more and more commonplace, and especially thanks to the rise of social media. I think it's becoming more acceptable for us as a society.
So let's delve deep into it. Men's grooming, that's on top of mind. And you know what? It was extremely interesting for me to look through all the numbers from the listed companies that came this time around in the fourth quarter. And in that, this was a trend that was really visible. We had Imami. They had quite a remarkable year. The male grooming business for them, in fact, did about 29% growth in the fourth quarter. The Man Company, a company which they acquired, has a 40% jump. It's over 200 crores in terms of revenue. And they are targeting even greater heights, almost 50 to 60% growth in FY24 as well. And that's ambition. Marico, on the other hand, they've acquired Beardo as well. Their 100% subsidiary did 100 crore plus revenue in FY23 as well. And they expect growth to continue there too. FSN e-commerce, Nykaa as we know it, for women mostly, but their men's vertical, the others part of their results, Nykaa Men plus others, grew 204% in FY23. So there's definitely making waves in the market. Ustra, which saw some investment coming in from Info Edge in the later part of the year, saw a remarkable doubling of revenue in 2023 as well, FY23 that is, and more than that, they target 100% growth over the next 2 years. So there's some serious determination and opportunity and the numbers that are showing in men's grooming.
And this is all very recent because up until a few years back, there wasn't this kind of a growth. In fact, there weren't so many players in the market. But let's step back and look at the bigger picture here. Like we do always, male grooming has come a long way. It used to be a lukewarm category. Just a footnote, limited product options. You have men using their wives or their sisters or their mother's products in the bathroom. But boy, have times changed. The male population constitutes a significant 52% share, but the revenue of the personal care sector stands at a noteworthy 11%, and it's set to grow from here. So safe to say, male grooming at least is here to stay, if not grow much more.
Not grow, but it's definitely here to stay. And we have a lot of players coming in as well. It's the perfect time to introduce our guests on the show. Today we have Sukhleen, Aneja, CEO of Glamm Group, joining in. Sujot, Malhotra of Beardo as well. And we are joined by Deepak Gupta, who of course co-founded and is currently the COO of Bombay Shaving Company. Let's go to the lady first. Sukhleen, could you give us a sense of your plans with regards to men's grooming? Glamm currently not actively present, but what's the growth that you're sensing here and your strategy for the same?
So currently we don't have a business in male grooming. That's a business that we are very keen on building, because clearly if you see the male grooming industry, it's poised to have a CAGR of anywhere between 10 to 11%. It's a double-digit CAGR that the industry is expected to grow at. It's a large market. And clearly it's an area that we find extremely, extremely relevant. You would have seen in the recent news, we've just announced a joint venture with Akshay Kumar. So we will be making a foray in male grooming as a segment together with Akshay as a JV that we are working on. So watch the space to get more updates from us.
Well, double-digit compounded growth is impressive. But Sujot, what is the average spend per male customer today versus, say, what females would be spending? And to what extent, if at all, has this gap reduced?
I don't have access to this data. We don't subscribe to industry data, and I don't know what women spend on. I only know what is the average spend that we see in our business, and that's around 500 rupees odd. And it's been steadily increasing over a period of time. What's been increasing is essentially the basket of goods that men are, or frequency of purchases that they're doing online. That seems to be growing over a period of time. And hence, overall, the amount of money spent online on grooming by men is definitely seeing an uptick.
Deepak, how about you at the Bombay Shaving Company? Non-metro growth versus metro's growth. Which one is growing faster, and what is the fastest growing market for you?
So I will divide this into two parts, pre-COVID and post-COVID. I think pre-COVID, metro was growing at very fast pace. I think post-COVID or during COVID, I think a lot of non-metro consumers started shopping online because we are an online first brand. we see that consumers are getting exposed to a lot of newer product categories from the smaller towns also. So now if we look at our business split, 50% comes from metro and roughly same business comes from non-metro, which used to be roughly 75-25 3 years back. So a huge shift that is happening. I think one interesting thing on metro is your average order values are higher because this growing trend on don't have kids but high disposable income. The men is spending far more on their grooming, and even the time spent on the grooming is very similar to the female member. We believe that will keep catching up in metros, but non-metros has grown very fast as well.
All right, Deepak, just hang in there. We'll come to you in a bit. But the important thing is, what are the factors driving growth in this market? There are several key drivers. And the biggest one of them, of course, is the increased awareness around men's skincare, hair care, the difference between products made for men and made for women itself. Men are now more conscious of taking care of themselves. Secondly, beards. I mean, social, cultural change. Remember the 90s India cricket team? Not many had a beard. In fact, just two had mustaches. And this is the 2019 World Cup squad where nearly the entire team, and now as we look at the World Test Championship, the entire team has a beard itself. So it's impressive how, a simple change in trend can actually bring about a new market itself, the beard care market. Thirdly, launch of new age brands and innovative products have been a game changer. We've had more brands enter the market, cater specifically to the evolving needs of the male audience, offering them a wide range of grooming options. Earlier, it was just, the shaving creams and some lotions here and there. Additionally, everyone's got higher disposable incomes. It's allowed more investment rather, in self-care and grooming. And when you have the means, why not pamper yourself a little bit itself? And finally, we cannot ignore the power of digital connectivity, a theme that we speak about very often here on Mad About Markets. E-commerce, the ease of online shopping. They buy it online only to look good and put pictures online as well. So social media has also made a big difference to the male grooming market itself. So what is the size of this market? Just look at, Euromonitor's estimates. As of 2021, it was a 12,500 crore category, growing all the way up to 15,000 crore right now as we speak in 2023. And by 2026, it could be almost 20,000 crores. And what does this 12,500 crore as of 2021 comprise of? Majority of it is still shaving. Shaving has around 43% share. Toiletries account for 42%, and fragrances currently 15% are likely to grow much faster. So the expected compounded annual growth rate for all these categories, for it to reach 20,000 crore, it would be largely contributed by, it will be fragrances, which will grow between 12 to 13%. Toiletries growing around 10 to 11%. Shaving, because of the increasing acceptance of facial hair, likely to grow just between 6 to 7 odd percent. So, this is how it is, Ritu.
It's interesting that after all of this growth of the grooming industry, it's still shaving that men are buying, right? Like, that's one of the largest segments.
Men are functional human beings. They just go ahead and buy exactly what they need. And that's why it's important to take a quick look inside the male grooming kit itself. It's the shaving segment, which is expected to cross the 7,300 crore mark. But currently, it is a little higher in contribution than toiletries. Come 2026, toiletries is expected to surpass that. 8,800 crore is what it is expected to go. And fragrances, which is likely to grow extremely fast. By 2026, it'll be over a 3,300 crore category.
Well, there's more in men's shaving kit than we'd imagine. So let's look at those components as well. For instance, the body wash and hairstyling segments are expected to cross 700 crores by 2026 as per Nielsen, followed by face wash, beard care, face cream, closer to the 500 crore mark. But if you were to talk about the women's segment, I don't think we'd have enough space on this wall. So that's the kind of differentiation we're speaking about. But Deepak, really, coming back to you, the perception and acceptance of grooming for men, how has it changed in the last few years?
So male grooming as a category has evolved a lot in last 10 years, I will say. And that's where you saw brands like Bombay Shaving Company and even some of the other new age brands came up. I think there are two things that is happening. One is just the growing consciousness on feel good and look good is going up. When I say look good, because the younger men are on social media apps, Tinder a lot more. So there's a pressure on looking good, and that's why they're looking for products and brands which can kind of help them achieve that. Second is just the entire feeling of self-care and feel-good is going up. So now men are spending a lot more on their grooming and their self-care than what they were doing 10 years back. So I think these are kind of two broad changes that have happened in last 10 years.
Well, men spending a lot more, and how? But Sukhleen, how much do you think is the leakage from women's categories by men users?
So if I can tell you specifically online, we have a brand called Saint Botanica. So today, post-COVID and post the pandemic world, more and more men are inclined towards using better brands, getting a lot more ingredient transparency, label transparency, and they are choosing brands and are becoming a lot more discerning than they ever were. Earlier, the entire category was very restricted to functional product use, which is now moving towards functional plus sensorial because men are also demanding more. So if you see a brand like Saint Botanica within our portfolio, it has a male usership as high as 40 to 45%. And these are products which are scalp care, prebiotic, products which are for skin care. So these products are being used extensively by the male grooming brands.
Okay, now that we know that the market is growing, let's also get into strategy. Because Sujot, for instance, you started as an online-only brand, but then you expanded offline as well. I mean, what was the strategy? What was the learning? Is it not enough to be an online-only player, or is the target customer itself, very different across these channels?
While we've always seen that tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities are contributing more to sales, or growing more in percentage to sales. But what is definitely distinct about the town class behavior is that when you go to higher town classes like metros, they are so much more comfortable paying online for their purchase. So their purchases are usually, paid upfront. Versus as you go down the town classes, the percentage contribution of consumers who actually prefer cash on delivery goes up. And that's also a large, reason why offline retail does become important for those consumers who are basically not comfortable buying online. Plus, there's also a relatively large consumer set who likes to touch and feel the product before they end up buying it. And that's really been the two large, factors that have influenced our presence offline.
All right, we take that point. Here on Mad About Markets, we follow the money, and there has been a lot of money chasing the men's grooming industry itself. So interesting mergers and acquisitions that have taken place in this industry. Let's talk about Marico itself. We heard from Beardo, right? They have acquired the remaining 55%, so now it's a 100% owned company by Marico itself. Imami increased its stake to 50.4% in June 2021 in the Man company. Thereafter, we had the Bombay Shaving Company as well, raising almost 210 crore from GII and Malabar. This happened as late as Feb 2022. InfoEdge, we spoke about Ustramen doubling their revenue and looking to double even further, right? In September 2022, we had InfoEdge investing about 16.8 crore in that as well. And finally, the most recent big one that happened was GCPL acquiring Raymond's consumer business, which houses the male grooming Park Avenue brand for about 2,825 crores. So a bunch of M&A activity taking place. That's telling you about the opportunity, Ritu.
Well, it's interesting, Mangalam, you highlight how these larger players are looking to acquire stake in some of the startups. But Deepak, let me come to you. On one hand, you have Marico, Godrej, Imami, deep-pocketed, wide reach, and then you have hundreds of startups that are mushrooming in the space. What is your moat when you compete with larger players like this?
Yeah, I think our moat is make products which give happiness to the consumer. I think now, especially for the new age ingredients like charcoal, coffee, consumer don't want to buy products from mass brands. Even I mentioned about beard category. I think Nivea, Godrej, Himalaya, all of these brands have launched a beard category and then they have to take the stock back because it didn't work for them. Right now they are not present in that category, but brands like us and some of the other competitors which are new age brands continue to do well in the category. So clearly I think there is a consumer who now want to associate with the brand beyond products and the mass media marketing they do.
All right, point taken. But Sukhleen, is it a category that's still driven by direct-to-consumer and modern trade? And what are the steps that larger players are taking here apart from acquiring startups?
So I think if you look at the two segments which have a mass GT outreach, one is clearly deodorants, where you see there's a very, very mass outreach, especially what players like ITC did was to create those pocket-sized formats which allowed a large rural adoption of the category as well. So that's one space which really developed. Second is the space of razors, right? Which is where, again, you can see the entire shaving and grooming part of the portfolio, which has gone deep from a penetration standpoint. But where I think lies the opportunity really is pure personal care, which is where, if you see, it's only the top end of the market which is really proliferated. So within a face wash segment, which is a good 3,000 to 4,000 crore segment, you still see a very small subset of men's specific products which are being consumed. So I think that is where, for brands like us, there's a massive opportunity to target not just tier 1, but tier 2 India. And see, what online brands also tend to do is to make the products available wide and deep. So today, even for Glamm as a company, we are today present across nearly 20,000 pin codes. So from an access standpoint, online brands are targeting the tier 2 India, the tier 3 India as well. Important thing really is, how do you create a scalable business and a scalable, repeatable business? That, I think, remains a big opportunity.
All right, Sukhleen, thanks a lot for that. In fact, on that note, let's take a short break. On the other side, we discuss the yays and the mays, the opportunities and risks in the men's grooming industry. And
as always, we're going to ask the bigger question, because that is what we do here on Mad About Markets, and that is on your screens right now. What's blooming in men's grooming?
नई कार तुमने कार इंश्योरेंस खरीदा होगा एगो ऐप से नहीं
आपको
नहीं
नहीं तो
कोई बात नहीं मूर्ति गलतियां होती रहती हैं कोई जरूरत नहीं है चेक करने नहीं मूर्ति
नई कार खरीदने से पहले एको चेक करें और 36,000 तक बचाएं।
It's always winter on an old mountain road. This old mountain road, this mountain
road. Roads may close, but the way never does. Chimney, never turn back.
किराए के घर में कैसा रेनोवेशन? तो सिग्नेचर ग्लोबल है ना, ले लीजिए स्मार्ट डिसीजन।
You're watching us here on Mad About Markets. Today we're mad about male grooming, and it's that part of the show where we talk about the yays and the mays, the opportunities and the misses in the category itself. So just hang in there and we will bring on the two big perfume bottles, the yays and the mays.
And you start with the mays?
I will start with the yays, always. Let's talk about the yays itself. I mean, it is a nascent category with a strong growth opportunity. Like we said, 52% of the population is male, but only 11% of the personal care sales are from men. So there is huge growth headroom.
There is headroom, but this is still very much a modern trade-driven category, and that's a drawback because there's only so much scope for expansion.
There is only so much scope for expansion, but we're also seeing, increasingly seeing the presence of new brands, new offerings, very specific products as well.
While new brands are innovating, the traditional players, which have a larger reach, aren't really doing much as far as, innovation is concerned.
Yes, but premiumization, it's a high gross margin category. A lot of the things that are coming are at the premium end. So even if a small portion of the audience buys it, in terms of value, it becomes huge.
But once you start pricing your product up, I'm going to stop buying here and I'm going to probably go international. That's what tends to happen with these brands as well.
You spoke about traditional players not innovating so much. What about they going and buying the new age modern products that we just spoke about? So that can add scale to the category.
But despite this self-care for men becoming more and more acceptable, it does remain culturally awkward for men to embrace grooming in general, and they continue to use, like we were talking at the start, their wives and their mothers and their sisters' grooming products at home. So that mind shift hasn't really changed.
Truth be told, I, until the longest time, used whatever was there, right? And which was definitely not brought by any of the men in the house.
Well, I don't know. Were those glasses picked by you?
The glasses were picked by me.
Well, Sukhleen, let me come to you on that note. What about you? What are the challenges that you see in scaling up a category like men's grooming?
I think I would say there are two distinct challenges. One on the brand side, where if you see in the last 5 to 7 years, there have been a sea of brands that have come up. And I think somewhere creating a differentiated brand identity and a brand positioning will be critical, because male grooming is one segment which has started to get lost in the sea of sameness. So how do you actually create a distinctive brand identity for men? I think is one opportunity and a challenge. And I think the second side would be to actually do a lot more scoping in terms of understanding which categories to pivot on. Because typically in male grooming as a segment, you would realize that men become loyal to a product category and don't tend to use a universe of products from the same brand. So they will have a specialist shaving brand, they will have a specialist deodorant brand, they'll have a specialist personal care brand for their face washes and body washes. And chances are all these three segments, they have distinct brands that they use. So in that context, how do you actually create a portfolio which can scale and can sell across categories is a difficult problem to solve within male grooming.
Wow, Sukhleen said it better than anyone else. She said that men are loyal to one product of a certain brand, so it gets very difficult for people to go ahead and buy the entire bouquet. One would say buy a razor from a certain brand, but the perfume would be from some another brand. So,
well, I'd say it's pretty much the same for women as well, but perhaps more pronounced for men.
A little more pronounced, because men, as they say, are functional. But talking about functional and the opportunity, etc., Deepak, we spoke about a whole lot of listed companies in this space. You have been scaling up well as well. IPO, what are your IPO plans?
Yeah, so we have a IPO tracker at the reception in the office. So we want to do an IPO in 3 years from now, which is like getting to 1,000 crore net sales business. Right now we are close to 1/3 of that. So 3 years is what we are looking at. The kind of growth we have seen in the last 4 years, we believe that this will happen. We just need to kind of continue to be consumer centric, continue to do innovative stuff, and communicate in far more engaging way through storytelling to make that happen.
Well, Deepak, we hope that barometer hits the mark that you're hoping for and you are able to go public soon. But on that note, we're going to ask the bigger question, and that is how much headroom really is there for the male grooming industry to grow? What's blooming in men's grooming? And Deepak, why don't you go first?
See, for us, the category is not only shaving or skincare, which include or deos, right? So the newer subcategories like body grooming, etc., are growing at a very fast pace, where Bombay Shaving Company has got very high market share, right? So I think more than kind of trying to take share from the existing players, which as the brand will scale will continue to do, but the creation of newer subcategories will give far more delta and create a headroom for the growth. I believe that we should not see the category TAM from the lens of the traditional players, because if you do that, you will always find that it's a close to $1.6 billion category growing at 7-8%. But the way we look at this is that there are a lot of new subcategories which are growing at 30-40%, and how do Bombay Shaving Company take majority share of that? We launch a hair removal spray for men. Like I said, that we did a very interesting survey in Delhi. 40% of the male consumers in the age group of 16 to 24 actually have shaved their chest and back because they are going to gym, they are going to beaches a lot more, etc., which was very unlikely few years back, right? So these are the trends we need to pick up and launch a product. Our hair removal spray sell for $599, which is kind of far higher ASP than the competition in the market. So I think innovation, deeper understanding of the younger consumers, and kind of servicing them better and communicating to them in the right way will kind of help us create new headrooms apart from acquiring share from the legacy players.
Thank God he spoke about the 16 to 24 category buying the hair removal sprays, and I'm way past that and not a target audience for that as well. But Sujot, I mean, the question to you as well, how much is the headroom for men's grooming to bloom?
It doesn't, it's not even 15 to 20% of the female grooming space in India, whereas that's not true for the population base. Population base is pretty much 50-50. And if you look at today's workspace, what is definitely changing, at least in urban India, is the percentage contribution of male to female in office spaces, which is only going to increase, incidence of grooming by men, because presentation is going to become so much more important. and which steadily over a period of time culturally has been changing in India. Today, if you look at say a 40-year-old to a 20-year-old, you definitely see distinct change in the amount of grooming products that the consumers, that the 40-year-old users versus 20-year-old users. And over a period of time, this is only going to go up. And I believe that's going to create significant opportunity for the male grooming players out there to grow.
All right, thanks a lot, gentlemen, and Sukhleen for giving us your perspective on the men's grooming industry. With that, we're out of time on this edition of Mad About Markets. Stay mad. We see you soon. Keep grooming.